Sophia had always thought that love was simple, pure, honest, and unshakable. But life had a way of shattering illusions, and by the age of 24, she had learned that betrayal could come from the most unexpected sources. She was a woman of grace, intelligence, and ambition, and she had always believed that she and her fiancé, Liam, shared an unbreakable bond. They had been together since college, supporting each other through late-night studies, family crises, and early career struggles. Their love was the kind people often envied. Or so she thought. It all started at her sister's wedding. Lily, Sophia's younger sister by 3 years, was the epitome of charm, bubbly, flirty, and magnetic in every room she entered. While Sophia admired her sister's energy, she always felt a subtle tension between them, like a quiet storm waiting to erupt. But Sophia never imagined that the storm would hit her own life directly. Liam had been unusually quiet during Lily's engagement party. Normally cheerful and engaging, he seemed distracted, almost distant. Sophia, preoccupied with helping Lily with wedding preparations, didn't notice at first, but when she glanced over and caught Liam laughing at something Lily said, her stomach twisted. It wasn't just casual laughter. It was the kind of laughter that shared secrets, the kind that belonged to lovers rather than friends. She brushed it off as paranoia. Surely she was overthinking. After all, Liam had been with her for years, and she trusted him completely. A few weeks later, Sophia's suspicions were confirmed in the most devastating way possible. Lily, with her radiant smile and disarming charm, confessed to having feelings for Liam. Sophia felt as though the world had collapsed around her. The betrayal cut deeper than she ever imagined, not just because of Liam, but because it came from her own sister. She confronted Liam, expecting an explanation, an apology, something to salvage their relationship. Instead, he confessed with a resigned expression, "I can't help how I feel, Sophia. I'm sorry. I love her now." The words hit like 1,000 shards of glass. Sophia felt her heart shatter, leaving a cold emptiness inside her. She left their shared apartment that night, taking nothing but her dignity and a few essentials. The next few months were a blur of heartbreak, sleepless nights, and the relentless questioning of what went wrong. Friends tried to comfort her, but no words could heal the wound that cut through both her love life and her family. Sophia moved to a new city, taking a job at a prestigious marketing firm. Work became her refuge. She threw herself into projects, climbing the corporate ladder with determination fueled by her pain. Nights alone in her apartment were still heavy with memories of Liam, but gradually she started to regain her sense of self. She realized that she was more than someone's heartbreak. She was resilient, capable, and strong. 3 years passed. In that time, Sophia transformed. She traveled, developed her passions, and became financially independent. She even started attending high-profile social events, rubbing shoulders with influential people in the business world. It was during one of these events that fate, in its cruel and ironic way, decided to intervene. The charity gala was held in a magnificent ballroom, adorned with crystal chandeliers and golden accents. Sophia had worn a sleek emerald green gown that highlighted her elegance and sophistication. She was standing near the entrance speaking with a business associate when a familiar figure entered the room. She didn't recognize him immediately. He looked different, more confident, refined, and commanding. But as he stepped closer, the recognition hit her like a lightning bolt. It was Liam, and he wasn't alone. By his side was Lily, radiant as ever, smiling and holding his arm. Sophia's heart froze. Memories of betrayal, heartbreak, and despair resurfaced with a painful intensity. Her mind raced, struggling to process the scene. They had been together for years while she had rebuilt her life from the wreckage they left behind. Seeing them now, laughing and seemingly happy, felt like salt on an old wound. Sophia wanted to turn away to escape the overwhelming rush of emotions. But before she could, someone tapped her shoulder. She turned to find a man, impeccably dressed with a presence that commanded attention. He had an air of power and confidence, and his eyes, a deep shade of blue, held a warmth that instantly put her at ease. "Miss Reynolds?" he asked politely. "I don't believe we've met. I'm Alexander Bennett." Something about him intrigued Sophia. He radiated success and kindness simultaneously, a rare combination that was both intimidating and comforting. She accepted his handshake, trying to mask her inner turmoil. Alexander was a billionaire, known for his philanthropic work and his sharp business acumen. They spoke briefly about the gala, the causes it supported, and the importance of making a difference. Sophia found herself captivated not just by his success, but by the genuine interest he showed in her thoughts and opinions. As the evening progressed, Sophia couldn't shake the image of Liam and Lily from her mind. She excused herself and moved to a quieter corner of the ballroom, needing a moment to breathe. Alexander, noticing her distress, followed politely. "Are you all right?" he asked, his tone gentle yet concerned. Sophia hesitated but found herself opening up, sharing a condensed version of her past heartbreak, not mentioning names but enough to convey the depth of her pain. Alexander listened intently, his expression empathetic. "I'm sorry you had to go through that," he said softly, "but it seems to me that you've grown stronger because of it. Not everyone can come out of heartbreak and rebuild themselves as gracefully as you have." His words struck a chord. For the first time in years, Sophia felt seen, not for the pain she had suffered, but for the strength she had cultivated in spite of it. Just as she was beginning to feel a spark of calm, the crowd erupted in applause. A spotlight fell on Liam and Lily as they approached the stage to be honored for their charitable contributions. Sophia's heart sank. She watched them, frozen, realizing that life had moved forward for them while she had been left behind in memory and scars. But amidst the swirl of emotions, a strange sense of clarity began to emerge. She understood now that their happiness was no longer her concern. Her focus was herself, her growth, and perhaps in time new possibilities. She glanced at Alexander, who gave her an encouraging smile. It was a silent promise of the unexpected paths life could take, even after betrayal. For the first time in years, Sophia felt the stirrings of hope, not tied to anyone from her past, but to herself and the uncertain yet thrilling promise of the future. She straightened her posture, lifted her chin, and allowed herself to fully step into the grandeur of the evening, ready to face whatever came next. The gala continued around Sophia, yet she felt detached from the swirl of music, laughter, and clinking glasses. Every glance toward Liam and Lily reminded her of the betrayal that had once cut her to the bone. But as Alexander Bennett stayed nearby, his calm presence acted as a counterbalance to the storm inside her. He didn't try to push her to talk. He simply existed as a steady presence, silently reminding her that not all encounters had to bring pain. "Would you like a drink?" Alexander asked, breaking the silence. His voice was smooth, confident, but not overbearing. Sophia hesitated. She rarely allowed herself to enjoy social events like this, especially after seeing Liam and Lily. But the thought of escaping entirely, leaving the room, didn't appeal either. She nodded, and together they moved to a quieter side of the hall, where waiters offered sparkling champagne and delicate hors d'oeuvres. As they sipped their drinks, Alexander asked subtle questions about her life, her passions, and her career. Sophia felt an unfamiliar sense of ease. She spoke freely, sharing her journey of heartbreak, resilience, and the self-discovery that had defined the last 3 years. Alexander listened with genuine interest, occasionally nodding, occasionally offering thoughtful observations that made her feel understood in a way she hadn't felt in years. "You've rebuilt yourself admirably," he said softly. "It's rare to see someone rise so strongly after being hurt. Most people either give up or let the past define them. But you seem to have found your strength in the chaos." Sophia felt a blush rise to her cheeks, partly from gratitude, partly from the intensity of his gaze. There was something magnetic about Alexander, not just his wealth or status, but the way he carried himself. He exuded calm authority, but beneath it was a warmth that made people feel safe, even in moments of vulnerability. I've had to," Sophia admitted quietly. "I couldn't let myself be defined by their choices, by the betrayal. I wanted to survive, and then maybe even thrive." Alexander smiled, the kind of smile that felt like reassurance rather than charm. "And thrive you have. You're remarkable, Sophia. And I don't say that lightly." The compliment, sincere and unpressured, touched her in ways she wasn't used to. For years, she had been defined by someone else's choices, someone else's betrayal. But here, in this moment, she was being recognized for her own journey, her own resilience. They continued talking as the evening progressed, drifting from one topic to another: art, philanthropy, travel, and the subtle intricacies of high-stakes business. Sophia found herself laughing, genuinely and fully, in a way she hadn't in years. She realized that for the first time since her heartbreak, she was allowing herself to be fully present, fully herself. But life, as it always did, introduced complications. Across the room, Liam and Lily noticed her presence. Lily's eyes narrowed slightly, a flicker of discomfort passing across her otherwise flawless composure. Liam, now aware of Sophia's presence, froze momentarily before forcing a smile. The sight of them noticing her presence brought back a flood of old emotions: anger, betrayal, hurt, but also something else, an unexpected sense of closure. She was no longer the same person who had left them 3 years ago, shattered and lost. Sophia took a deep breath and returned to her conversation with Alexander, deliberately turning her back on the painful reminder of her past. Yet the encounter sparked a curiosity she hadn't expected. About herself, about what she wanted, and about the kind of life she could build for herself moving forward. "Do you want to step outside for a moment?" Alexander asked gently, noticing her tension. "It's quieter on the terrace and you can get some fresh air," Sophia agreed. The terrace overlooked a sprawling cityscape, lights twinkling like distant stars. The cool night breeze carried the faint scent of jasmine, and for the first time in years, she felt the weight of the past beginning to lift, if only slightly. "I'm glad I met you tonight," Alexander said, his voice low, almost intimate yet professional. "Life is strange sometimes. It puts the right people in our path at the exact moment we need them." Sophia looked at him, studying his features under the soft glow of the terrace lights. "I wasn't sure I'd ever feel that again," she admitted. "After everything, I wasn't sure if I could ever trust or even care about someone like this." "Care?" he asked, raising an eyebrow slightly, teasingly. "You mean someone who actually sees you?" She smiled faintly, feeling a mix of shyness and intrigue. "Yes, someone who sees me, not the story of my past, not the girl who was left behind." Alexander nodded thoughtfully. "I understand that, and I hope you know anyone who truly deserves your heart will see you as you are, strong, intelligent, beautiful, and completely capable of thriving on your own." As they stood together, talking, Sophia felt an odd sense of destiny in the encounter. Perhaps life was offering her a second chance, not to forget the past, but to redefine what her future could be. The bitter taste of betrayal was still there, lingering in her thoughts, but it was no longer the defining flavor of her life. Instead, a new, intriguing possibility emerged, a life where she could be fully herself, and perhaps even find someone worthy of sharing it with. Meanwhile, the gala continued inside, and the crowd's attention occasionally drifted to Liam and Lily, who were now the center of admiration. But Sophia no longer felt diminished by their presence. She had grown beyond the girl who had been left behind. Her experiences had shaped her, made her wiser, more resilient, and more discerning. She understood now that happiness wasn't about reclaiming the past. It was about claiming her own present. Alexander gestured toward a quiet corner of the terrace with a smile. "You seem to carry a lot of stories with you. Sometimes sharing them makes the burden lighter." Sophia took a deep breath. She had spent years holding on to anger, resentment, and sadness. Tonight, for the first time, she allowed herself to release some of that weight, telling Alexander about her move to the new city, her career struggles, and the painstaking process of rebuilding her life. He listened with patience, without judgment, and without interruption, a rare gift in a world where most people only listen to respond rather than to understand. Hours passed unnoticed as they shared conversation after conversation. Sophia's initial wariness transformed into comfort, then into a subtle curiosity about the man beside her. Alexander was not just attentive. He was genuinely intrigued by her thoughts, her opinions, and the fire that had propelled her through years of hardship. Finally, as the gala began to wind down, Alexander turned toward her with a gentle smile. "I hope this isn't too forward, but I'd like to see you again. There's something about your perspective, your strength. I'd like to explore it further if you're willing." Sophia felt a flutter of something she hadn't allowed herself to feel in years: excitement, anticipation, and perhaps even the beginnings of trust. She nodded slowly, a smile playing on her lips. "I'd like that," she said softly. As they left the terrace together, Sophia felt a subtle shift within her. The past with Liam and Lily still lingered like shadows, but now, instead of haunting her, it fueled her determination to embrace the present and perhaps, a future that held unexpected possibilities. For the first time in 3 years, she felt a sense of liberation, not from the people who had betrayed her, but from the weight of their memory. And standing beside Alexander, she began to believe that life's twists and turns, painful as they could be, sometimes led to exactly the right moments, the moments that made you stronger, wiser, and unexpectedly ready for love again. The days following the gala were a whirlwind of unexpected feelings for Sophia. She couldn't stop thinking about Alexander Bennett, the way he had listened to her without judgment, the gentle way he carried himself, and the undeniable magnetism that seemed to draw her toward him. She found herself replaying every word, every smile, every subtle glance. It was intoxicating and disorienting all at once. Meanwhile, life continued in its usual rhythm. Sophia returned to her office, where her colleagues noticed a subtle change in her demeanor. There was a newfound confidence in her step, a brightness in her eyes that hadn't been there before. She handled meetings with a sharper clarity, made bold decisions in marketing campaigns, and even began mentoring younger employees, guiding them with a mix of empathy and authority. It was as though Alexander's presence had ignited a spark inside her, reminding her of her own worth. Yet despite this renewed energy, the memory of Liam and Lily still lingered in the back of her mind. It wasn't that she wanted revenge or even closure. It was just a matter of understanding how someone she had once loved could betray her so completely. She knew deep down that their happiness together was no longer her concern. But the shock of seeing them again had reopened old wounds she thought were long healed. Days turned into weeks, and Sophia found herself increasingly drawn to Alexander. They exchanged messages, their conversations ranging from casual banter to deep, reflective discussions about life, ambition, and personal growth. Each message seemed to pull her closer to him, but Sophia was cautious. Her heart had been broken once. She wasn't ready to surrender it again without knowing the true intentions of the man who had captured her attention so effortlessly. One Friday evening, Alexander invited her to his private art gallery opening, a space he owned in the heart of the city. It wasn't just any gallery. It showcased some of the world's most exquisite contemporary pieces. Sophia accepted, curious and slightly nervous. The gallery was breathtaking, with high ceilings, polished floors, and spotlights highlighting each artwork. Alexander walked beside her, his presence calm and reassuring as they admired the paintings and sculptures. "This one is my favorite," he said, stopping in front of a large abstract painting with vivid strokes of blue and gold. "It reminds me that life is chaotic, but even in chaos there is beauty." Sophia studied the painting, then glanced at him. "It's powerful. I never thought about chaos like that. It's messy, but meaningful." He smiled, as if pleased that she understood. "Exactly. Life isn't meant to be orderly or predictable. It's in the unpredictable moments that we discover who we truly are." As they continued walking, Alexander suddenly paused. His expression changed subtly, a flicker of seriousness crossing his features. "There's something I need to tell you," he said, lowering his voice. "Something about me and my past that might surprise you." Sophia's curiosity piqued, though a part of her braced for disappointment. "What is it?" she asked cautiously. Alexander took a deep breath. "I wasn't always in this position. I grew up with challenges, and I've faced betrayals, failures, and loss just like anyone else. The difference is that I learned to turn them into opportunities, and I think that's part of why I connect with you. You've done the same." Sophia felt a lump form in her throat. She hadn't expected him to share his vulnerabilities, especially given his billionaire status. It made him human, relatable, and even more intriguing. "Thank you for trusting me," she said softly. I understand better now why we connected." Alexander nodded. "Good. I want us to continue exploring that connection without the weight of the past holding us back. You deserve someone who sees you, not just your past, but the woman you've become." Sophia's heart fluttered. The words were genuine, the intention clear. She felt a warmth in her chest that she hadn't felt in years, a mixture of hope, excitement, and cautious optimism. But life has a way of testing newfound hope, often when you least expect it. The following weekend, Sophia attended a high-profile charity luncheon, unaware that fate had something else in store. As she walked into the grand hall, elegantly dressed in a cream-colored dress that complemented her natural beauty, she froze. There at the far end of the room was Liam, and next to him, smiling effortlessly, was Lily. The shock of seeing them again was like a punch to the gut. Her initial instinct was to retreat, to escape before anyone noticed her, but she was already seen. Lily's eyes locked onto hers, and for a brief moment there was a flicker of guilt. Or was it fear? Sophia couldn't be sure. Liam's face mirrored a complex mix of emotions: surprise, hesitation, perhaps even regret. Sophia reminded herself of the woman she had become. No longer the naive, heartbroken girl of 3 years ago. She straightened her posture and walked toward them with calm determination. Alexander, who had accompanied her, subtly moved to her side, offering silent support. "Sophia," Liam said, his voice betraying a hint of uncertainty. She cut him off gently but firmly. "Liam, Lily." Her tone was composed, almost serene, but her eyes were sharp. "It's been a long time." The air between them was thick with unspoken words, memories of the past hanging in the space like heavy curtains. For a moment it seemed as though time had frozen, and everyone in the room was aware of the tension. "I see you're doing well," Lily said finally, her voice carefully neutral. "You've changed." Sophia allowed herself a small, polite smile. "Yes, I've grown. And I've learned that happiness isn't about clinging to the past. It's about embracing the present and the future." Liam looked down, visibly uncomfortable. Sophia noticed the subtle shift in his demeanor. The man who once had the power to wound her now seemed diminished, almost human in his discomfort. It was a revelation that both surprised and satisfied her. She realized that she no longer needed closure from them. Her life had moved forward, and their presence was merely a reminder of what she had overcome. Alexander, sensing the tension, extended a hand politely. "I don't believe we've met," he said to Liam and Lily, his tone calm yet authoritative. "I'm Alexander Bennett. Sophia and I are acquaintances from a recent event." Liam's eyes flickered with recognition, a subtle unease crossing his face. Lily, meanwhile, seemed to mask her discomfort with a practiced smile. Sophia felt a quiet satisfaction watching the dynamic shift. For the first time, the balance of power felt different. She was no longer vulnerable. She was strong, poised, and in control. The luncheon continued, but the encounter had already changed everything. Sophia understood that her life was no longer defined by those who had betrayed her. Instead, it was defined by her choices, her resilience, and the new connections she was forging. Alexander remained by her side, a steady presence, a reminder that the past could inform her growth but did not dictate her happiness. Later that evening, as Sophia reflected on the day, she realized that the past had returned not to haunt her, but to highlight how far she had come. She had endured heartbreak, betrayal, and loss, but she had also discovered her strength, independence, and capacity to embrace love on her own terms. And now, standing at the threshold of a potential new chapter with Alexander, she felt a mix of excitement, caution, and hope. Life had thrown her a series of unexpected twists, but she was ready to navigate them, not as the girl who had been hurt, but as the woman who had survived, grown, and discovered her own power. The days following the luncheon were a whirlwind of reflection and subtle excitement for Sophia. Seeing Liam and Lily again had stirred a mixture of emotions: surprise, lingering resentment, but also an unexpected sense of closure. She realized that she no longer needed their validation or attention. She had moved far beyond the girl who had been left in heartbreak. Now she stood poised, confident, and ready to embrace her own life fully. Alexander, meanwhile, remained a steady presence, though Sophia was careful not to rush into anything. Their conversations continued, deeper and more intimate, exploring hopes, dreams, and personal philosophies. There was an undeniable connection between them, a mixture of intellectual engagement, emotional understanding, and subtle romantic tension. Sophia found herself drawn to his calm confidence, yet also the warmth that made him approachable, real, and grounded. One evening, Alexander invited her to his private penthouse for dinner, a sleek, modern space overlooking the city skyline. The penthouse was a testament to refined taste: minimalist decor, soft ambient lighting, and floor-to-ceiling windows that offered a breathtaking view of the city lights. Sophia arrived in a deep burgundy evening dress that hugged her figure elegantly, exuding confidence without arrogance. "Wow," she murmured as she stepped inside. "This place is incredible." Alexander smiled, his eyes twinkling with gentle amusement. "I'm glad you like it." but I'd rather hear about your impressions of the city skyline from the terrace. Care to join me? Sophia followed him to the terrace, where the cool night air carried the faint scent of the river below. The lights of the city sparkled like distant stars, and for a moment, all of Sophia's worries and memories felt distant. "This view," she said softly. "It feels like anything is possible from here." Alexander nodded. "Exactly. And sometimes perspective is all we need to realize how far we've come and how much further we can go." As they stood together, Sophia felt a flutter of something unfamiliar, yet thrilling. There was a subtle intimacy in the quiet moments between them, a connection that seemed to deepen with every shared glance, every measured word. Over dinner, their conversation took a personal turn. Alexander spoke candidly about his upbringing, the challenges he faced, and the lessons he learned along the way. Sophia shared stories from her own life, her heartbreak, her journey to independence, and her aspirations. Each word, each shared memory seemed to knit a subtle bond between them, a foundation of trust and mutual respect. "I never imagined I could feel this way again," Sophia admitted quietly. "After what happened with Liam, I thought I'd never trust someone like this. I thought I'd never allow myself to care." Alexander reached across the table, gently touching her hand. "Sometimes life gives us a second chance, not to erase the past, but to build a future that is stronger and more meaningful than we ever imagined. You deserve that, Sophia, and I want to be part of that future with you if you'll let me." Her heart raced at his words. For so long, she had guarded herself against vulnerability, protecting herself from potential heartbreak. Yet in this moment she felt safe, seen, and understood. She realized that love didn't have to be about pain or betrayal. It could also be about trust, respect, and partnership. Just as the night seemed perfect, a notification buzzed on her phone. It was an invitation to a high-profile business gala the following weekend, a charity event with prominent socialites, entrepreneurs, and media figures. Sophia considered attending, intrigued by the opportunity to expand her network and enjoy a night of glamour. But part of her hesitated. She knew that Liam and Lily might be there again, and the thought of another encounter stirred a mixture of curiosity and apprehension. Alexander noticed her hesitation. "If you want, I can accompany you," he offered. "It might be more enjoyable with someone you trust by your side." Sophia smiled, touched by his consideration. "I'd like that. It would make facing the past easier, I think." The night of the gala arrived, and Sophia found herself in a stunning navy blue gown, her hair cascading in soft waves over her shoulders. Alexander, looking equally polished in a tailored tuxedo, arrived to escort her. The venue was breathtaking, glittering chandeliers, grand staircases, and elegantly dressed guests milling about. It was the epitome of sophistication, a perfect backdrop for the drama and tension she sensed might unfold. Sure enough, as they entered the ballroom, Sophia's gaze fell upon a familiar scene: Liam and Lily, mingling effortlessly among the elite crowd. Their eyes met hers for a brief moment, and she noticed the subtle tension in their expressions. They hadn't expected to see her accompanied by someone of Alexander's stature, someone confident, composed, and undeniably impressive. Sophia took a deep breath, steadying herself. She was no longer the girl who had been hurt and abandoned. She was a woman in control of her destiny, capable of facing the past without fear or hesitation. Throughout the evening, Alexander and Sophia moved through the crowd with poise, engaging in conversations, networking, and enjoying the atmosphere. Yet every so often her attention flickered to Liam and Lily. Sophia realized that the tables had turned, not in terms of wealth or social status, but in terms of confidence, self-assurance, and empowerment. She had grown into a woman who commanded respect, admiration, and attention, while they seemed constrained by the awareness of her transformation. At one point, Lily approached Sophia with a polite smile, attempting small talk. "It's been a while," she said carefully. Sophia met her gaze steadily. "It has," she replied. "And I hope life has been treating you well." Lily hesitated, perhaps sensing the unspoken message. Sophia was no longer the same person who had been vulnerable, heartbroken, and dependent. There was strength, confidence, and a quiet power in her presence that Lily couldn't ignore. Meanwhile, Liam lingered in the background, awkward and uncertain. Sophia noticed his subtle glances, the small signs of unease. It was a silent reminder that life's consequences weren't always immediate, but they had a way of catching up with those who underestimated the resilience and strength of others. Alexander, sensing the tension, gently placed a hand on Sophia's back. "Ignore them," he whispered. "This night is about you, not the past." Sophia nodded, feeling a surge of gratitude and confidence. She realized that she no longer needed their validation, apology, or attention. She had built her life on her own terms, embraced her independence, and discovered the value of being seen and appreciated for who she truly was. As the evening drew to a close, Alexander led Sophia to the terrace overlooking the city. The lights shimmered below, reflecting a life filled with possibility, growth, and the promise of a future unburdened by the past. "I'm glad we faced them tonight," Alexander said softly, his eyes fixed on hers. "It wasn't about them, but about showing yourself just how far you've come." Sophia smiled, feeling a sense of liberation and accomplishment. "You're right. I've realized that my happiness isn't dependent on anyone else. It's mine to define." Alexander reached for her hand again, intertwining his fingers with hers. "And I hope to be part of that happiness if you'll let me." Her heart swelled with emotion. For years she had feared trusting someone again, feared opening herself to love. But now, standing beside Alexander, she felt a rare combination of excitement, peace, and anticipation. She understood that life was unpredictable, full of twists, turns, and moments of heartbreak, but it also held the potential for joy, connection, and love beyond anything she had imagined. And as the city lights sparkled beneath them, Sophia knew that this was only the beginning, a turning point in her life, where she would embrace the present, honor her growth, and step confidently into a future filled with possibility, strength, and perhaps a love that was truly deserving of her heart. The weeks after the gala were a revelation for Sophia. Every interaction with Alexander deepened her understanding of herself, of love, and of the life she wanted to lead. Gone were the lingering doubts, the fear of betrayal, and the shadows of heartbreak. Alexander had not only captivated her heart, but had shown her a world where trust, respect, and genuine connection were possible. Sophia's mornings began with a renewed sense of purpose. She woke early, exercised, and prepared for her workday with a clarity and energy that surprised even her. At the office, her presence commanded attention. Colleagues admired her confidence, her decisiveness, and her ability to balance authority with empathy. She realized that the pain of the past had shaped her into a woman who could navigate the world with both strength and grace. Alexander was ever present in subtle ways, never overbearing, always respectful of her autonomy. Their conversations were intimate yet balanced, filled with humor, intellect, and shared dreams. They explored art exhibits, dined at exclusive restaurants, and even embarked on spontaneous weekend trips. Each moment was a reminder that life, when approached with courage and openness, could be astonishingly beautiful. One afternoon, as Sophia was preparing for an important business presentation, her assistant handed her an envelope. Inside was a formal invitation to an exclusive gala hosted by the city's elite, with a note: "You are cordially invited to join a celebration of excellence, hosted by the Bennett Foundation." "Your presence would be an honor," Sophia smiled. The Bennett Foundation, Alexander's philanthropic organization, was known for its high-profile events, attracting influential figures from around the globe. She realized that her life had come full circle, from heartbreak and betrayal to opportunity, growth, and the chance to embrace her future fully. The night of the gala arrived. Sophia chose a sleek champagne-colored gown that shimmered under the ballroom's grand chandeliers. Her hair was styled elegantly, her makeup understated yet enhancing her natural beauty. Alexander met her at the entrance, looking as impeccably polished as ever. His smile, warm and genuine, reassured her. As they entered the ballroom, the atmosphere was vibrant with music, laughter, and animated conversation. Sophia's eyes scanned the room, taking in the grandeur, the elegant guests, and the subtle social intricacies at play. Then her gaze landed on a familiar pair, Liam and Lily, standing at the far end of the room. This time, however, Sophia felt no shock, no fear, no anger. She felt nothing but a serene confidence. The woman they had once tried to wound was now thriving, empowered, and radiant. She noticed the subtle unease in their expressions, the fleeting glances that betrayed discomfort and surprise. Liam, who had once been her world, now seemed diminished in comparison to the commanding presence of Alexander by her side. Lily, too, seemed aware of the shift in dynamic. The balance of power had irrevocably changed. Sophia allowed herself a small, polite smile. "It's been a while," she said, her voice calm and composed, acknowledging the past without letting it define her. Lily's response was a soft, measured nod. "Yes, it has." Sophia's attention returned to Alexander. He offered his arm and she accepted, feeling a surge of gratitude and warmth. Together, they navigated the crowd, engaging in conversations with influential figures, all the while demonstrating poise, intelligence, and charm. Sophia realized that her strength wasn't just about moving on. It was about thriving in a world that had once tried to limit her. Later in the evening, Alexander led Sophia to a quiet balcony overlooking the city. The skyline sparkled beneath them, a mirror of the possibilities that awaited. "Sophia," he began, his voice gentle yet earnest, "these past weeks with you have been transformative. I've admired your strength, your grace, and your ability to rise above everything life has thrown at you. But there's something I want to ask you, something important." Sophia's heart skipped a beat. She could feel the weight and sincerity of the moment. Alexander reached into his pocket and revealed a small, elegant ring box. Opening it, he revealed a simple yet exquisitely designed ring. "Sophia, I know life hasn't been easy. You've faced heartbreak, betrayal, and challenges that would have broken anyone else. But through it all, you've emerged stronger, wiser, and even more beautiful. I want to build a future with you, a life filled with trust, love, and partnership. Will you marry me?" Time seemed to slow. Sophia's emotions surged: joy, disbelief, relief, and overwhelming love. She looked into Alexander's eyes, seeing the unwavering sincerity and devotion reflected there. All the pain of the past, all the heartbreak she had endured, now seemed like a distant memory, replaced by hope and the promise of a bright future. "Yes," she whispered, tears of happiness brimming in her eyes. "Yes, I will." Alexander slipped the ring onto her finger and they embraced, the city lights casting a golden glow over the moment. It was a testament to resilience, growth, and the undeniable power of hope. Sophia realized that life had not only given her a second chance at love, but a chance to redefine herself and her happiness on her own terms. The next days were filled with planning, excitement, and anticipation. Sophia and Alexander shared their story with close friends and family, revealing how fate, resilience, and mutual understanding had brought them together. Sophia noticed the contrast between her current life and the one she had once envisioned. A life shaped not by betrayal or heartbreak, but by empowerment, love, and self-discovery. Eventually, the past, the betrayal by Liam and Lily, faded into irrelevance. It was no longer a source of pain or resentment. Instead, it served as a reminder of how far Sophia had come, the lessons she had learned, and the strength she had cultivated. She had turned heartbreak into empowerment, disappointment into opportunity, and betrayal into a stepping stone toward a life she could truly embrace. Months later, Sophia and Alexander celebrated their engagement at a private gathering with friends and family. The atmosphere was joyous, filled with laughter, heartfelt speeches, and the undeniable energy of love and unity. Sophia stood beside Alexander, radiant, confident, and completely at ease, knowing that she had not only reclaimed her life, but had embraced a love that was genuine, nurturing, and enduring. As she looked around at the smiling faces, she realized that life's twists and turns, though sometimes painful, were part of a larger journey, a journey that had led her to strength, self-awareness, and ultimately a love that was truly worthy of her heart. And in that moment, Sophia understood the ultimate truth. Happiness and fulfillment were not dependent on others' choices, but on her own resilience, courage, and the willingness to embrace the possibilities that life offered. With Alexander by her side, she felt ready to face whatever came next, together stronger and unbreakable. Her past was no longer a shadow over her life. It was a foundation for the extraordinary future she had built, and a reminder that even the deepest heartbreaks could lead to the most beautiful beginnings. Sophia smiled, a radiant, serene smile that spoke of triumph, hope, and love. And as the city lights shimmered below, she knew that her story was no longer defined by betrayal or loss, but by strength, resilience, and the boundless possibilities of a life fully embraced.